Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mamaliez Wants to Learn. And today I want to learn again with Dr. Nina Hafiz. And today we have a mental health series. I'll just put up the poster again. And we're going to talk about all about anxiety. And she is a clinical psychologist, School of Humanities and Behavioral Science, University of Ballarat, Australia. And she is with us all the way from Doha, Qatar. Okay, so let's welcome Dr. Nina Hafiz.
Assalamualaikum. Hi, Liz. How are you?
Hi, how are you? You good?
Assalamualaikum. Hi,
Good, good.
everyone.
Mm. So yeah, Dr. Nina, I love having you every weekend, and I love spending time with you.
Thank you.
I
Thank
just
you.
want
I
to let
love you.
everybody know Dr. Nina Hafiz is one of my best friends in Doha, Qatar. Yeah, but I'm glad that I still have maintained a friendship even though we are far apart. And I'm so glad that right now we share the same passion about creating awareness in mental health and doing this
Yes.
together with my good friend. I think this is just I think it's like a tick box in life achievement lah for me kan to able to
Inshallah.
do
Inshallah.
something with your own good friend kan. I think
That's
it's just
true. That's
awesome,
true.
right? Because I
I
don't
think
think
I think it's great that you're doing this because it's benefiting a lot of people, right?
mm,
So yeah, I love your idea. Obviously, it's all your idea, but I'm glad to be a part of it.
thank you so much. So, Dr. Nina, maybe today, explain. Okay, I think today is all about. We're gonna talk about all about anxiety, and maybe you just
Mhm.
brief us through why about this topic. And
Yes.
I think it's a very important topic because especially during the pandemic,
Mhm.
people they can feel the energy. People have become more anxious, you know,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
even I myself become anxious about going somewhere, being afraid of uh, apa, being afraid of getting infected by COVID-19,
Mhm.
you know, and then sometimes because of the anxiety, it can cause trigger for me, you know. So maybe
Yes.
you can share with us, Dr. Nina,
Okay.
about this topic. So
Inshallah, I'll do my best.
So all about the anxiety by
Yes.
Dr. Nina Hafiz, and we'll talk to the disclaimer.
We'll go to the disclaimer first. Okay. So, first of all, thank you, Liz, for having me on your show again. I am happy to be a part of your efforts to educate and create awareness in mental health. What we often do is we pick a topic. We're open to suggestions from all of you audiences if you are interested in hearing about certain topics within mental health, mental illness. So what we do as well is because this is actually meant to be educational and to create awareness. We need to make sure that whatever information is presented in this show, we need to let the audience know it's not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice. So don't rely on it as health or personal advice. Instead, if you identify with any of these criteria or traits that we're talking about, or you know someone who's going through it, then you or them will need to go seek the guidance of the guidance of your doctor or other qualified health professionals or mental health professionals. So if you have that, go make an appointment, go see someone. So don't self-diagnose through what we're sharing with you today. It's only meant for educational awareness purposes, okay? Not meant as a diagnosis. Okay? Good.
All
We're
right.
good with that, Liz.
Okay. So we're gonna go to first slide or what? Yeah.
Yes, so we'll go to that one. So basically, this is the definition of anxiety by the American Psychological Association. So it's an emotion, and we all, experience anxiety at any point in our lives. It's an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and then physical changes like increased blood pressure. So people with anxiety disorders, they usually have recurring intrusive thoughts. That means the thoughts keep happening over and over and over again, or any kind of worries or concerns. And one of the things that they might do is they will avoid that certain situation because they're worried about it. So an example would be a child who is worried about going to school and being separated from the parent. They will do anything they can not to be separated. So you'll see crying, you'll see them complain of stomach aches. Sometimes people will come up with an excuse for not doing a presentation because they have social anxiety. So it is something, it gets to the point where you actually avoid it. So if you have anxiety over sitting for an exam, right? So the thing is, anxiety is a mental and physical response to an expected threat. That's what anxiety is. Now, you also get feelings of fear, feelings of tension, or panic. It is, the other thing that you need to know is that it is future oriented. Okay, so last week we had a session on depression. So individuals with depression tend to focus more about things in the past, and usually things that have happened. Either it's trauma, either it's events, losing a job, being ridiculed, losing a home, being bullied. So they tend to focus on things that have happened in the past. Now, anxiety is when people tend to focus more on the future. So when we talk about the future, it basically hasn't happened yet, but the thoughts are there, right? So let's say you have an exam that you have to sit for, or you have a driving test that you have to sit for. When you think about that, it's actually healthy to have anxiety in some ways, because anxiety gets you to be more aware. You get more ready, and you go, okay, I have an exam, I need to do well, this is what I need to do, I need to study, and it allows you to plan. And then the anxiety also makes you kind of maybe a little bit more alert, right? So your body is prepped and ready for an exam. But what anxiety disorder can do is it can create questions where, okay, if you're an anxiety disordered person, if you have anxiety disorder, if you're diagnosed with it, one of the questions you will often ask is, what if? What if I fail?
Okay, so how do I know, like all of us have this anxiety anyway, for any situation, right? All of us will experience that we can't get away with it. So how do we know that it's a serious thing?
Okay, so I am going to break down in a way, I'm going to tell you a story about anxiety. So that makes it, there's more sense to it. But essentially what it is it's what if, and then often it is worst case scenario. Okay. So in most cases, the worst case scenario, like I'm going to fail my exam, that actually doesn't happen very often. You might not do as well. Maybe you'll do okay. Maybe you'll do better than you expected. But the worst case scenario is what if I can't wake up in time for my exam? So then you don't sleep the entire night. You're tired. Now you go sit for exam and you have a mental block because you haven't had enough sleep. So then sometimes what happens is the worry actually prophesizes things. So you worry that you're going to fail the exam, then you worry that you're not going to wake up, you don't have a good sleep, and then you do wake up late, and then you start panicking, and then you miss the bus, and then you're late for the exam, and then you go for the exam, and then you go, oh my God, I'm going to fail this, I'm going to fail this, I'm going to fail this. If you tell that to your body, your brain is going to process that, and your brain thinks, okay, fail. Because our brain is made to process things in the, I can't say how, but in a more positive way. So if you see, for example, a child coming up a ladder and you want the child to come down, one of the best ways to do it is either you distract them and go, hey, come over here. I need you to see something. I have a surprise for you behind my back, or I have a surprise in my hand, or come over here. Could you come down from the ladder, please? But often we say, don't go up the ladder. We use the word don't, right? Don't go up the ladder. The brain doesn't process the word don't. The brain only processes things that it can do, right? So if you tell them don't go up the ladder, then what else? What are you telling me? All right. So the brain will go, we hear go up the ladder, because that's the doing thing, right? So now we'll go up the ladder. So what you do is, when you tell your brain that, sometimes you prophesize your own, idea about, worst case scenario in anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. So I totally get you. I think it's the same like either people who learn in law of attraction, or like me, I learned theta healing is what you think in your mind, so you keep focusing on that, and then finally your naturally will attract what you don't want rather than what you want.
Yes.
right?
So there's different schools of thought on that. You manifest things, or you attract things, what you want, and all that, just with your thoughts. But actually, those thoughts actually drive behavior and stuff, which is kind of why CBT is one of the best treatment for anxiety, right? Because we change the way you think about things, and that changes how you then do things or you proceed with things. And so
CBT.
that comes out, yes, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So it
Oh,
changes the way you think about things, and by that it changes the way you act and behave, and then it changes the consequences.
ah,
Right?
I
So
see.
that's one of the therapy that actually works. It was most effective for anxiety. Okay, now
Ah,
what we're going to do is I'm going to start telling you a story about anxiety. I'm going to explain it, and maybe in more detail.
yeah.
But let's go to the next slide, which is the amount of people worldwide that experiences anxiety. So,
Okay, but before we go there, for the audience,
mhm.
just let us know where you're tuning in from, whether you're in Malaysia or outside Malaysia, and any of you ever experience any kind of anxiety when you do things. Do make a comment, make a comment, and then you can even ask any questions to Dr. Nina. Okay?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Go on, Dr. Nina.
So 284 million. 284 million. It is actually the most common mental disorder in the world. And then that after that comes depression.
Oh, this is number one?
Yes. So depression is the leading disability, the leading cause of disability in the world. But
Oh, number.
anxiety is, yes. So I'll break down the types of anxiety, and then you'll see how it makes sense after, because, I know we talked about depression being the leading cause of disability last week,
Yeah.
but this
Uh,
is the most common mental disorder in the world.
so in terms of percentage or what that they become the most common, or is
No,
it
in
the
terms of
depression?
numbers who
Uh,
report
uh,
anxiety symptoms.
hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So let's
wow.
have a look at numbers again. Anxiety in numbers. We'll go to the next slide. All right. So two to the ratio of one. So women are twice more likely than men to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder and more likely to be prescribed medication. 60% comorbidity means that of those with anxiety, 60% will also report symptoms of depression. So
Okay.
yes, so you would get anxiety and then you get symptoms of depression as well. So 60%, that's the highest comorbidity, meaning anxiety usually comes with a pairing of depression. That's the highest prevalence.
Hmm.
And then 31.9% of children between 12 to 18 years old report anxiety symptoms. Younger children, a little bit less, but usually children or teenagers report that. And within age groups, 30 to 44-year-olds, the highest age group that report anxiety symptoms. So in younger children, you might see more sort of phobias, specific phobias. So phobia of going to school, phobia about going to the dentist, phobia about seeing the doctor, phobia with insects, and so on and so forth. And then within the middle age group, you'll see more panic disorder.
Right.
And in the older age group, you might see generalized anxiety.
Okay. So can you explain why is it happens on this age group of 12 to 18 and also 30 to 44? What?
Right.
What?
So
Yeah. Why is
there are
it?
different types of anxiety. In younger groups, you might see again specific phobias. So phobias don't necessarily need to be treated. So, for example, someone might be just really scared of spiders, arachnophobia, right? So if they're
Yeah.
really scared of spiders, you don't actually need to be treated. Basically, people just avoid spiders, or they scream when they see one, and somebody else will have to get rid of the spider. So in children, you see a lot of that. You see separation anxiety in really young children. So
Yeah.
separation anxiety is where they do not want to be separated from a parent or a caregiver. Right. And then in middle age adults, you see more panic disorder. So panic attacks, they get more panic attacks because they start getting worried about things.
You're talking about young adults between 12 to 18?
No, 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 no.
12 to 18,
Middle age.
what is the.
So 12 to 18 would be things that they worry about. They worry about going to school. They worry about, so that you might find social anxiety. They worry about,
Social anxiety.
so you can see that. So you have separation anxiety, you have social anxiety. Sometimes they're worried about exams, they're worried about grades. So the worries are usually specific to the time of life that they're in. The
Right.
kind of worries, it kind of makes sense for you if you're a teenager, for you to be worried about grades, for you to be worried about exams, or for you to be
So,
worried about friends.
yeah. How about the 130 to 44? What are they worried about most?
So, okay, so
What anxiety is there?
if you look at that age, okay, if you look at that age, that is when most people are either in a job, okay, or they have a family, which means
Mm,
that they are taking care of young children, but they might also have parents, older parents, that they have to take care of. So they have a lot on their plate. They have to balance a lot of things, right? So
mm,
that's the job, that's the responsibility of taking care of the younger children, the younger family members, and then the responsibility of taking care of the older family members. So
right.
it basically, there's apparently they report the more panic disorders within that group. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
as you get older, okay, you start to basically just worry about everything, a lot of things. My experience has been that with the older generation, they tend to worry about falling, because
Fall.
that's not falling
Oh,
down. They tend to
falling
worry about,
down physically. Oh.
right. They tend to worry about getting any sort of medical illnesses, or they're worried about their current medical illnesses. You get they worry about death, they worry about, so they tend to have more generalized worry, so they worry pretty much about everything. They're worried about going out, they're worried about nobody's going to come and take care of their meals, or if they're living in certain accommodation, they worry about just generally things to do with old age,
Mm. So
right? So
this kind of anxieties that we have is related to the life at which point of your life at that time, right? What kind of
right.
things going on in our life. So but this worry that we have, the anxiety that we have, at what point do I categorize, oh hey, this is too much of worry that probably this person needs help
Mhm.
to look into it and to get someone,
Yes. So usually, as with any diagnosable disorder, mental health disorder, you will find that you're looking at number of symptoms that the person reports.
Mm.
You're looking at the duration, how long they've experienced it. Or you're looking at, even if they've experienced it before, you're looking at family history, because genetics play a role. You're looking at medications that they're on, or you're looking at to rule out medical illnesses that they have. You look at symptom severity as well, how bad it is. So usually it's okay. So if you have a specific phobia like arachnophobia, you're terrified of
Mm.
spiders, right? Uh, that doesn't stop you from living your life. It's just that you just
Mm.
do not want to come across a spider,
Yeah.
right? So you
Mm.
would have you would generally go about your daily life as
Yeah.
normal. Okay,
Right.
so phobias aren't necessarily debilitating, and so that's probably the ones that you don't need to go see a medical doctor or a mental health professional if you're scared of spiders.
Mm.
But it gets to the point where if it starts to disrupt your daily life, you're
Mm.
not sleeping well, you're not eating well, you're constantly experiencing physical symptoms like rapid heartbeat, you hyperventilate,
Mm.
you start sweating more, you over perspire, it
Mm.
stops you. So you are worried that you're going to have to do a presentation, you just don't turn up at work for that day.
Okay.
You can't do
So
that. You're going to lose
yeah,
your job.
for example, during this pandemic, people always have this fear that, oh, what if I lose my job? So what
Yes.
if they keep thinking about it on daily basis? So at which point, if they
Yes, I
really
think
have any,
when you discuss the pandemic, it's a unique situation.
right?
It's not something that happens every day. So on top of worrying about your livelihood, you're also worried about your health.
Yeah.
right? And then you're also worried about, things happening like, losing your home, or if you don't have a job, you can't pay rent. If you can't pay rent, you could lose a home. Parents are worried about children catching the disease. Parents are worried about children having to adapt to online schooling. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty unique situation. And there have been a lot of studies, and they have found that the numbers have increased exponentially. The number of people reporting anxiety and depressive symptoms because of the pandemic.
Oh.
Right.
So
So yeah.
how
So
do
you
you, yeah. So how do you think with parents or anyone who is working from home or working outside or at the current situation in this unique situation, how did they deduce? If you think it's not gone to that serious, but it can be serious stage if they don't do something about it, right?
right.
If they
So
continue about it. So how do they reduce that worry, reduce the anxiety of life changes or life possible changes that they worry about?
right. So one of that is, if you're talking about specific to anxiety during a pandemic, right? Some of the things that happen that happen, like you losing a job, is probably unavoidable in some cases, and so that wouldn't necessarily be seen as they're worried about a job, losing their job, and so they have anxiety disorder because they're worried about losing their job. That's not necessarily the case. It is
Yeah,
the fact that the situation has caused them to lose their job.
right.
Right? And so with anxiety, it's more prolonged, and often it's worried about. So once they lose their job, it is actually obviously traumatic, and they will feel really down about it. They might worry about where the next source of income is going to come from, worried about feeding family, worrying about keeping a roof over their heads. So that is very situational, and that can, like you say, if you're not attending to it, can lead to anxiety disorder and depression, most likely in the
Okay.
future, right?
So what
So
is your suggestion? Yeah. Yeah.
adaptability is key, and
Yeah.
also being not being too hard on yourself and making changes, being able to adapt and acknowledging that this has happened. Yes, this is horrible that I've lost my job, but I need to think about other options. I need to do things. Like, I know during the pandemic in Malaysia, there was this gentleman. He, I think, was a pilot, and then he decided, well, obviously, the aviation industry was very significantly affected by the pandemic. He opened a burger stall. He started selling burgers, right?
Mm.
So it might not be ideal, but he adapted. Okay, so that's key. But also, you also need support. Support helps a lot along the way. People who support you, people who comfort you. But part of that is also a mental attitude that you adopt,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So
So okay. So that means before it becomes to a worse situation
yeah.
that you need you need to see a professional like you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Before it even gets there, what you're saying is that their mindset has to start to change to able to adapt to the situation,
Mhm.
to take
Mhm.
action. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
yes.
Yeah.
So it's not ideal what has happened, and it's really unfortunate,
Mm.
but their mindset is also really important. However, I'm going to say this though. If you have experienced a lot of failures in the past, a lot of trauma in the past, either during childhood or as an adult, that actually affects your ability to adapt, or your ability to have a good, positive mental attitude.
Right.
So, it's easier said than done. So if you've
Okay.
had, a history in the past of things not working out, but then you try, or you approach it a different way, and then things started working out. You look at that past and you go, okay, so I can do this. I can do this again. I've done it before. I can do this again. However, if you have had significant childhood trauma, or even trauma as an adult, um,
Mm.
always in fight flight mode. So we often talk about fight and flight, okay, where your system is either ready to fight, okay, or flight, meaning you get ready to run. But I'm going to explain that a little bit more. So if you could go to the next slide, we'll start telling the story of anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay, so you look at that, anticipated threats. Anticipated threats, so not current threats, but you anticipate it. You expect that that's going to happen. Okay, so it is divided into physical, material, and social. So physical could be the threat of pain, injury, and death. Could this situation hurt or kill me? Will they beat me up? So someone who has had health issues and has had gone through a number of different surgeries, and they've woken up either taking a long time to heal. They've woken up in a lot of pain. They've woken up in a lot of discomfort, or they have secondary infection after surgery. They could then avoid future surgeries if they need it, because they go, no. Last time it happened, it was really unpleasant. I do not want to go through that again. Or sometimes the physical threat could be, will they beat me up? So going to school, a child will avoid trying to go to school because he's been bullied at school.
Right.
So then you have material. So material losses are potential loss of resources that you need to survive. Okay, and that does this cost too much? Will I get robbed? Can I pay the rent? Can I buy groceries for this month? Okay, so that's material. And then you have social. So social is this desire to maintain good social status and to attract mates. So will I be embarrassed? Will she reject me? Will they humiliate me? Will they turn me down? So this could cause anxiety. So these threats may not have happened yet. Okay, so if you go to the next one, I'll talk about how you people generally respond. So you may okay, right. So usually people talk about fight or flight. You often hear that more often than freeze and fawn. Okay, fight or flight. So either you fight it or you run away. Okay. However, people have also become paralyzed, meaning they freeze in a social situation, or they. Okay, so so basically when potential threats arise, your body gets defense. So you're hardwired to survive. So your body will do what it needs to do to make sure you stay alive.
Right.
Okay, so what happens when your anticipated threats actually come true? Okay, is that first of all, you're going to have a fight reaction. What's a fight reaction? It's basically, it's the most aggressive defense response. It's when you try to protect yourselves from the threat by fighting it. Okay, not necessarily physical fighting. This might include arguing, yelling, or intimidating. So this, okay, imagine, I always use this example that you're at a safari and you're suddenly, you come face to face with a lion.
Okay.
So your body's going to feel a rush of adrenaline. Why? Because your body's preparing you. Okay, dude, you either fight this or you run. So your heart rate, your blood pressure increases, your breathing quickens.
Obviously, I cannot fawn on the lion, right? Oh yeah.
No way. Freezing is also not a good idea. Freezing might be good if you are with certain animals, like a bear. Like maybe you can sort of just pretend you're not there, and just keep still and then not run. Because if you run, it's going to think, oh, you want me to catch you, so I'm going to try and catch you. So the fight is, so you see that, and so of course, with the lion, I'm not sure. Like I think man versus lion, I think lion's probably going to win. But what I'm trying to say is that when you're experiencing anxiety, okay, it is as if you're trying to run away from a lion. That's how it is. Your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases, your breathing quickens, your pupils dilate, and all that stuff. And people often say, "Oh, everyone experiences anxiety. What's the big deal?" Yeah, but you're experiencing all of these emotions
That
When
translates
you're just
into physical,
yeah, when you
right?
just okay, you experience this emotion when you're just sitting down reading a book. That is not normal. Okay, there's no threat. There is no lion in front of you. There is no really. It's so people often feel like, oh, but I worry too. I get anxious too. Yes, you get anxious because it's in relation to a certain situation or event. I'm
Right,
anxious about my driving test, or I'm anxious about my presentation. You know,
right,
or I'm anxious about going to school for the first day, to meet new friends, to make to make friends and to meet new people. But
right,
after that, it kind of goes away. It doesn't always stay.
right.
Okay, so it's only when so people often say like, okay, yeah, but people with anxiety disorder, individuals with anxiety disorder, can basically just doing the most mundane things. Okay, a mom could be just sending in a report at work, and then and it's something that she's done so many times before, and she feels this rush. A dad could be picking up the kids toys, for example. Okay, and then feel this rush as if there's a lion right in front of him and he has to react. It's a horrible feeling, and they experience this daily, and just at random times. So that is what anxiety is. I remember a story. I'm going to continue with the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn thing, but a number of years ago, I had a client, and she had anxiety because she had had some medical conditions in the past, and there was obviously concern or worry that she could pass, so that she could die, right? But she didn't. She made it through and all that. But that left a really strong, emotional, created a very strong negative emotional memory for her. So she, we were talking about it and all that, and then so one time, and we were working through it. So one time, this was after I gave birth to my daughter, and I was in the shower, and she was still being breastfed, but I was just having a shower. I was supposed to take the kids out just for a walk at the mall. And then I did, when you're encouraged to do, this is breast cancer awareness, you're encouraged to do a breast examination when you're in the shower, and you lift your arm and you check and everything. So I felt a lump. Now, the moment I felt that lump, okay, I felt the blood literally drain from me. I started hyperventilating. I started getting all sorts of worst case scenarios in my head, that my kids are going to grow up without me, and it's going to be bad, and it's going to be, and for sure it's breast cancer and all that. Alhamdulillah, we went to get it checked, and the doctor said, well, it's normal if you're breastfeeding. Just monitor it. There are certain characteristics. Anyway, it turned out fine. So what had happened was, a client of mine, I told her this experience, and I said, oh my God, I was panicking. And what had happened was, I was on autopilot after that. I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. I was literally in my own world. I couldn't process anything that was going on. I still managed to bring my children out to the mall, but I wasn't enjoying that. I was literally just concerned about the lump. I was just really worried, super crazy worried all the time. So
Yeah.
when it got, alhamdulillah, nothing came out of that. But I told this client of mine, etc., because she had concerns with, after her experience with a medical illness, she was worried that it was going to come back. And every time she stepped into the shower, she had that feeling. Anytime she saw a lump or a bump or anything around on her body, she started panicking. So I told her, I said, that was what I felt when I was in the shower and I found the lump. She said to me, I experienced that every single day. And I experienced that a number of times a day. So when she said that, I went, it happened that one time to me, and I could not function. I could not function. I was like a zombie. I wasn't paying attention to things around me. It's a miracle I was able to drive my kids and go out and take them out to the mall and come back. But I was not functioning at all. I wasn't. There was I was not processing. So when I told her that, because she was maybe resisting treatment a little bit. I know I told her, I said, I am so sorry that you experienced that, but I'm also here to tell you that is not normal You should not be experiencing that every day and living your life and trying your best to function with that fight flight thing happening to you every single day at any time and any moment. So that was when she went, okay, let's do this and let's get the treatment. And she went on medication, living her best life now. Because I could finally relate to that. And I just told her, I said, no, I couldn't function just one day over one event. I don't know how you function every day for years, for years. She was experiencing all of that. So your body is always on alert, always on alert. That is not normal, and it's really debilitating.
So at any point, if somebody feels like always, either you fight or you fly, it's always these feelings that you can't really function, then you know that's already not normal. And
yes, because you yes, if you feel that intensity and you're just sitting down, I don't know, reading a book, dusting the shelf, or just preparing food, and you feel that rush, that's not normal. You shouldn't live like that.
Okay. Can someone show being anxiety of and the effect become anger? Like something like, for example, like, it didn't happen and the way the person want, and then it's not like panic.
Yes, so you can have that, but I would be so. And anxiety is more to do with worry and fear, whereas anger is more to frustration. So you can get anxiety, and that can also then be expressed and turn into anger.
Right.
But they're not. Yeah, they're exclusive. They're not exclusive. I mean, they're exclusive. They're not. They're not necessarily connected. You could just have anger because people get you have low frustration tolerance. You get angry really easily, but you may not have anxiety. But because anxiety is very different. It's a different component. It's worry and fear and panic, whereas anger is frustration. So
because you mentioned to me just now, one of the anxiety is having a social status, right?
Right.
Social status, they want it, but let's say if something they not like example, like something was not done the way it is to maintain the social status and it didn't do it that way, then he or she will be afraid, hey, what will people think about me like this?
Right. So the social status is what they strive for, because you have to understand what that social status mean to the person. So along with social status, maybe you think that people would treat you better. People will think about you in better terms, in more glowing terms. People will show more respect to you. People may be nicer to you, right? So you have to ask about what comes with that. Are you trying to prove something? Who are you trying to prove this to? Right? What does that mean? Does it even mean anything then? You strive to get that, and then so because the social status signifies something to that person. That's essentially what it is, which means that if I am respected, then I won't be disrespected. If you treat me nice, then you won't be mean to me. Right? If you like me, then you won't dislike me. If you give me special treatment, then you will not, give me non-special treatment. So it's what that social status represent and signify. Then you have to work your way backwards and go, why is that important? Thing is, you don't like everybody. Why does everybody have to like you? Right? Why is that so important? Why is that so important? It's enough to keep your circle just nice. It's always quality, never quantity. Right? And that's enough. You don't need the entire world to like you. You don't like the entire world either. So that's that's unrealistic expectations. But you can also walk back all the way to childhood trauma.
Yes.
Okay, so a child may look at a person who drives a nice big car, who lives in a nice big mansion, and think, wow, they always dress so nice. People are always nice to them. People treat them nicely, right? If I, and at that time, whatever childhood trauma that person is experiencing, mean that people are mean to them, or people humiliate them, or insult them all the time. They're not treated nicely. And so what happens is, developmentally in a child's mind, they equate that with, I need to make lots of money because then people will be nice to me. That's not true. We all know that that's not true. But in the mind of a child with childhood trauma, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to prove to everyone. I'm going to prove to everyone I can do this. I can be that. And then you're all going to have to bow down to me. You'll have to be nice to me. So that takes a long time. So you kind of have to understand what certain things signify, what it means to them, what happens if they don't get those things, and where did they get the idea that if they are not liked by one random person, that they become a worthless person.
Yeah.
Where did they get that idea? Right.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So let's go back because I'm just being aware of the time. Let's go back to the flight, fight, freeze, fawn. Yes, this one. Okay, so with flight response is basically you run. Okay, basically you run from that as fast as they can, as far away as they can. So if you look at caveman time, if you're being chased, you run because that's better chances of you surviving. But if you are sitting in an office at a desk and you start having anxiety and you feel like you want to run, okay, you're actually not running from a beast or a huge animal, but you feel that you have that sensation. So sometimes you'll find that people might excuse themselves. They get up, they might sit in their car or bathroom to avoid a situation. Sometimes people may fake an illness to get out of a work meeting. Sometimes they change topics or deflect when certain situations, conversation topics come up. So fight and flight responses share similar symptoms. Basically, the body is preparing to make a quick move, either fighting or running, and that includes flushed skin, increasing heart rate, breathing, trembling, dilated pupils. Again, you need to run. You need to run because you need to save your life. Okay, so it's preparing all your system and doing that. And your digestion is also inhibited. So at that point, you do not feel like you need to go to the toilet whatsoever, not necessarily, because that's not important. You just need to run, okay? So when you get to freeze, so sometimes people may have this where they kind of feel, they become kind of paralyzed, and they find that they can't make decisions or they're in a complete loss for words. In this case, their heart rate slows and they might feel cold, stiff, and numb. So I'm pretty sure if you have friends and they are a little bit nervous and you try to comfort them and you hold their hand and you go, oh my God, your hands are freezing. Right? She's just sitting there and her hands are freezing. That might be a freeze response. So basically it's to stay hidden. Yeah, and also sometimes when you freeze, it does allow you to kind of focus on the situation. If you're in a certain situation, it allows you to focus your senses. Now, let's go to fawn. So fawn is a lesser known reaction to threats because, like I said, we always talk about fight and flight. We don't often hear about fawn. Fawn is more like people pleasing or flattery, but is used to avoid conflict. So usually you might find that in persons who are in a subordinate position and the boss starts getting upset and angry and starts talking loudly or yelling and all that. What they do is they try to bring the situation to make it better. And so what they do is they placate. They try to appease to avoid the boss getting more angry and to avoid punishment. This could also happen to a child, right? Who've learned to do that because it's going to avoid negative consequences.
Right.
Okay. Or people you're in a situation where suddenly someone is trying to pick a fight with you and you realize, okay, it's too big. I can't fight. I can't run either. freezing is not helpful, and then they may placate the person. They may kind of back off, and they may say, okay, that's not what I meant. I wasn't doing that. Now that also happens in situations where a person is abused, and so they get the partner gets angry with them, and he or she may say, okay, well, that's not what I meant. Okay, I understand this. I see your point, and so on and so forth. But that's not necessarily always a good way. You know what I mean? There are actually better ways to do that. But like I say, this is an anxiety response. Okay.
Okay. So we go to the next one.
Yes. So let's go to the next one. So, okay. So you asked the question, well, how do you know? How do you know, right? So when your anxiety is sustained and unremitting, that means it continues and it just doesn't let up. It doesn't stop. And then it causes enough problems to keep you from living your normal life. Then it's time to get evaluated.
Right.
Okay, so it gets to the point where you can't function in normal life, then that's when you want to get evaluated.
But what if they think they can function and they can manage it so they don't need to, even though they're feeling that way?
Maybe they're in denial.
Yeah, but Dr. Nina, there's a lot of people who, I don't know, hi audience, why don't you just, do you think that, tell us, well, do you know of anyone who always worry on daily basis and, they panic and
there are a number of possibilities, okay?
Yeah.
One is that, like I said, they're in denial, meaning that they don't want to accept that. And probably they've Googled their symptoms, and they kind of, they know that it is, and it keeps coming back as anxiety. But for some people, that could mean it's weakness. If I admit that I can't cope or that I can't function, it's weakness.
Yeah.
So they see that they don't acknowledge that may be a legit medical condition, mental health condition. So they just go, no, not gonna. And so they continue to suffer. And they also sometimes make people around them suffer.
Exactly. That's what happens, right? Yeah.
Yes, unintentionally, because they don't want to accept it. Now, the other thing is that if you have always lived your life this way, so you've only ever known, so a child who lives in a foster care situation, in an abusive situation, in very uncertain situations, unpredictable situations, if you've lived your life and your entire life that way, okay, that is normal to you.
Yes.
So you may not recognize that there are actually better ways to live your life, that's not a way to live. Right? Simply because that's all they know. That's all they know.
Right.
Sometimes it takes it takes a little bit of push. So it could be a partner, it could be a parent, it could be a friend or a colleague, or sometimes they come to, and sometimes people meet other significant others and they go, oh my God, I want to live my best life. And I realize that, I've been living this. And then sometimes they look at other people and go, how are you so calm, getting yourself ready for a presentation? How are you're a bit nervous. I can see that, but you're not as panicky. How do you do that? And then they realize and they look around, they go, other people are not like that all the time. They don't snap. They don't get upset. They don't lose their temper.
Snap. Yeah, that's the thing. Snap. Right. So those are one of the symptoms of being anxious when you snap over things.
So anger is actually not part of a diagnostic criteria for anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not. But it can happen as well. So it gets to the point where they get super frustrated really easily. Sometimes in children, adults underestimate children and the child's need for structure, for routine, and for control. Not total control, but to be in control of their environment, relative control of their environment. When children don't get that, then, they feel like they don't have any control over anything. And then when things happen, just because bad things happen and good things happen all the time, they feel like they don't have control over them as well. And so then they develop low frustration for that. And then they start getting angry as a form of reacting to it. But it's not part of what is a diagnostic criteria for anxiety.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we
but
go
that's
next one. Yeah.
so you're asking your question just now. How do we know?
Yeah.
This is how we know. Normal anxiety, experienced by everyone. It's short term, okay? And then it goes away. Once you've done the presentation, you're fine. You go away, you go about your daily life. Once you've gone to see the doctor, it's all good. And then it's reasonable. It's reasonable for the situation. Of course, most people don't like going to the dentist. So it's normal to feel anxious about going to the dentist. And then we all get nervous in new situations. That's normal for all of us, regardless of age. Normal anxiety motivates you. So normal anxiety is kind of good anxiety. It pushes you. So if you're worried about exams, it gets you to maybe study more and work harder. And then what happens is it passes with time and regular coping. So you calm yourself down. You suck on a sweet or a lollipop. You may chew gum. You may do things, and then with normal coping, you do some breathing exercises and all that. That it goes away. It goes away. That's the key word. It goes away. Now,
Right.
with anxiety disorder, it happens. It's experienced by 3 out of 10 people. It's a long term. So usually when you come to us for a diagnosis, we will also ask how long you've been experiencing this.
Right.
Okay, it's long term. And then it's excessive. Your response to it is excessive or irrational. Okay, it just kind of for typical individuals, they go to work. That doesn't make sense. That it's a presentation. It's you're going to be fine. It's going to be okay. Then what they also do is that while people with normal anxiety might be a bit nervous in new situations, and then they start adapting, and then they start feeling better afterwards. A person with anxiety disorder will have complete avoidance of new situations. They just don't go, out. And then it makes life hard.
Right.
So it doesn't motivate you. It's not positive. It makes life a struggle. And then it's also when you find that things that you normally do, like chew gum or, walk around the room, does not help. When you feel like I actually need to go to a professional for this. So that's how you know.
Right. Okay.
Then how do we know if we are experiencing anxiety or if somebody else is experiencing anxiety? And if you go to the next slide, you will see how to, so all this, okay, memory issues, overthinking,
Procrastination, constant worrying.
the avoidance. Sometimes people say they have stomach issues, or kids might say, I have a stomach ache always. You always hear that from, and when parents come to me, it's always, they've been complaining of stomach aches. We have done tests and everything is clear. There's no issues with their stomach. And then that's when we kind of go, this could be psychological.
Okay. Out of these symptoms, or how on what to recognize, right? How many out of this that we need to know that okay, maybe the person needs help? So
there is
two out of these, three, or at least 4.
Yes.
What?
So certain symptoms. So you need to. So this is probably simplified, but you need to refer to the DSM-5, and then they need to have, again, the criteria is always a certain number of symptoms and then duration. So more than 6 months for sure.
More than 6 months, okay?
Yes, for sure. More than 6 months. So you may get panic attacks, and you don't get that in separation anxiety or something. It might actually be panic disorder. So not necessarily that it's it is anxiety, but it's a subtype of anxiety. Does that make sense?
Okay. So, what if the person has, example, headaches, insomnia, constant worrying, lack of patience, what else? So, avoidance, overthinking.
Yeah, that sounds good enough. So you will have physical symptoms like hyperventilating, or rapid heartbeat. You may have some cases they just simply go really cold, and then it happens for more than, and then a component of that is there has to be worry. So you could have headaches, you could have, rapid heartbeat and all that, and you could have a legit medical condition, right? But it needs to also have, so it has the physical symptoms of that, the sweating, the headache and all that, the muscle tension, but it also needs to have a component of fear or worry.
Worry, meaning overthinking, or what's the worry?
Not necessarily. So you worry. You just simply worry about things. And overthinking comes because you then worry about what's going to happen after. And then sometimes you create all these scenarios in your head that most of the time doesn't actually come true. But so what happens is when you create those scenarios in your head? This is the thing. This is the reason why. As part of therapy, we do relaxation, stress management, we do imagery, okay, where we get you to lie down and we get you to imagine that you are in a nice place. Some people like to imagine that they're on a cloud. Some people like to imagine that they're on a field and there are streams and there are mountains and there are beautiful trees. There's a reason why those work, because your body can be tricked into thinking that you are actually in a beautiful field.
Yeah.
You are actually surrounded by, majestic mountains. You are actually surrounded by a stream, trickling by you, and a soft, gentle breeze blowing. So even as I'm saying this, I know that a lot of the audience are already kind of feeling it, and they're kind of imagining, your mountain might be different from my mountain. Mine is always the same mountain, but again, you are already imagining this in your head, and then you almost get a sense of relaxation from it.
Yes.
The same thing happens when you start imagining worst case scenarios in your head.
Makes you panic and all that,
Yes. So your body actually thinks that's real. We need to react.
Okay, so it's taking on time like that. For example, right? Like I don't like. Okay, for me, I don't like to see the number of cases every day of COVID cases.
Right.
Positive. Because if I think I watch on daily basis how many cases that goes up or down, it might cause me worry all the time. What do you think about that?
So if you feel, you take charge of your own mental health. And part of that may mean that, okay, if you can avoid toxic friends, you can avoid, news that are depressing or news that are very stressful and anxiety inducing. Okay. There's nothing wrong with doing that. If you feel, so that's taking charge, that's self-care. If you feel that is causing you anxiety, it's okay to avoid that. You don't need, it's not good when you see a lump or when you notice, a pigmentation and you avoid it. That might not be the best thing to do. Okay. But if avoiding that, the news of, the number of COVID cases rising, if that helps, then shut down. A lot of people have actually become anxious because of the daily constant bombardment of news that they hear on social media and then from friends, from colleagues, from family about how, cases are going up and that person is dying, that person is in hospital and all that. And that actually creates that. So it's good to a point where you go, okay, so we need to remember to wash our hands, going out only when necessary. So you follow those guidelines and then you hope for the best.
Yeah.
But if you can avoid some of those things, then avoid it.
Right.
Because otherwise it causes a lot of anxiety and it's unnecessary anxiety.
Yeah, unnecessary anxiety. For me, okay, sometimes some people try to feed me this. Okay, I know the cases are rising. I don't want to know the numbers on daily basis. I know, and I know what I need to do. But I felt that if I was to see on daily basis updating, telling me 21,000, 20,000, 15,000, those are still high numbers. No matter what number, even if it's 10, is still a number. So we still need to be vigilant with what we in our current situation. So for me, I avoid looking at the numbers.
Right. So as long as you are aware of what you need to do to keep yourself and your family and other people around you safe, then that's enough. So sometimes overdoing it is also unnecessary because now you're placing a lot of stress on your body
Yes.
that you don't actually need. So it's
Yes.
really unnecessary. So learn to be picky about what you choose to allow to come into your life,
Right.
and then what you choose. Good or bad. Learn to be picky. Learn to be picky with that. It's prioritizing and it's self-care.
Yeah. Maybe I just want to ask the audience. Hi, audience. Maybe tell me, do you guys see the numbers every day? I don't, but do you guys do it? Does it cause you anxiety or not? Or make you worry more? Or does it make you more vigilant? Or does it affect you in any way? Just share with us. I just like to know that. Okay, so what's next
Okay.
now?
So now we talk about types of anxiety. So you go to
Ah,
the next slide. These are all the different types of anxiety. They're all a little bit different, but they are all anxiety based, right? So
okay.
you have GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then specific phobias. I have a phobia, and usually when I tell kids that have phobias or anxiety, and when I work with them and I tell them this, they think it's the most ridiculous thing ever. But I have a phobia of goldfish. Just yeah,
Goldfish.
it doesn't make sense at all, and it doesn't always have to make sense. But I have a huge phobia of goldfish, and so when I tell children this, children that I work with, they just find that to be ridiculous. They laugh about it, and then they realize, oh well, my phobia is okay. Then it's okay to have phobias and stuff, but it's not okay to constantly overthink it and over worry about it and stuff. That is usually really helpful when I tell them what my phobia is. Okay, and then you have agoraphobia, which is experiencing anxiety in a place that's not easy to escape. So people tend to just remain indoors in their home, and some people have, rare cases where they have remained indoors for years on end. There are actually a lot of movies, I think recent movies that have highlighted agoraphobia. Selective mutism. Most of the time, this happens in children, but it also does happen in adults sometimes. And then separation anxiety disorder. You may have that anxiety usually from younger children, but it's not uncommon for older, for the geriatric population, for older adults to also experience that. Like I said, they worry, what if they fall and no one's here to help me? What if something happens and I can't breathe? What if, so they have those fear. And then you have panic disorder. And people who experience panic disorder often report feeling like they feel like they're about to die, like they really feel like they're having a heart attack. And this might happen for someone when they're just simply driving in their car on a normal day, that they always take, and then they have heart palpitations and they actually really worry. And then eventually when they get taken to hospital and the doctors have done EEG, EKG, all the necessary tests that they need to make sure that you're not experiencing a heart attack, they then realize that what you're experiencing is a panic disorder. But the person will really tell you it really feels like they were about to die, that they could die. Okay. And then
Right.
you have social anxiety. Social anxiety is excessive anxiety in response to social situations. So they'll avoid going out, meeting people, even with their group of friends. They actually want to meet their group of friends. They love meeting their group of friends, but they will still feel anxious over it. So what happens is, for example, an example would be with one child that I've worked with. He loves going out with his friends. He enjoys going out with his friends. He looks forward to go out with his friends. But anytime that he is with them, he just overthinks and over worry. So he will, he gets really sensitive. And so they might say something and he thinks they're laughing at him or they're making a joke about him. Uh,
Right.
he may over interpret certain things, like he's
Yeah.
trying to give water to a friend and the friend turns it down. So instead of just thinking, oh, he just doesn't want water at this time, the child is thinking, oh my God, like he doesn't want water from me. Because
Right.
if he's angry with me, is he upset about something I've done? What have I done? Let me think about what I've done. And so it stops him from actually enjoying being around his friends, even though that's what he wants to do. Okay,
Right.
and you have substance or medication-induced anxiety. So it can be caused by alcohol, any kind of substance, or medication. That's the reason why, if you need to be diagnosed, you go first through, and and there's a slide for that, but I'll just be going ahead of that. You go through a primary caregiver, a physician. You go to see a doctor. They will do a physical exam. They might ask you to do a blood test. They want to rule out medical conditions, and then if there are no medical conditions, if you're not, they will ask you about medications that you're taking. Certain medication can cause anxiety-like symptoms. They'll ask about if you're drinking alcohol, if you're taking any kind of drugs, not just medication, and then they'll be able to include that in your history, and then they may then refer to a mental health professional. So when you get referred to us, then we'll ask a lot of questions. We'll ask about family history. We'll ask about the intensity, the frequency, the duration of your symptoms. What exactly are you experiencing? And you're going to describe that. Sometimes we give questionnaires, like the Beck Anxiety Inventory, the BAI. So they may do that questionnaire, and then we do a questionnaire again once we start treatment and therapy. We do a questionnaire again at the end of that, just to kind of have a baseline. The first one is a baseline, and then we see whether it's actually increased, it's the same, or it gets better.
Okay.
So that's diagnosis. But people often ask, well, what can cause anxiety disorders? Again, very similar to other mental illnesses like depression, for example. There's genetics. So genetics play a role. Then you have biology, so imbalances in the limbic system, specifically the amygdala. The amygdala becomes overactive and enlarged. They've seen that in people with anxiety. And then it might be medical problems. Again, it can cause anxiety disorders, but it can also medical problem can cause anxiety, but anxiety can also lead to medical problems.
Right.
Okay, so these other ones here, on the bottom here, the cultural, societal. So they've noticed how the different disorders are expressed in various cultures. So, for example, a culture that encourages you to be somewhat modest and shy, that may impact you because that's the expectation. Lifestyle choices impact the risk of developing anxiety as well. Whether you're getting enough sleep, whether you are getting a healthy diet, whether you are getting exercise. And then you have life experiences and stress. So life experiences, childhood, adult trauma play a role. Anxiety disorders. Okay, so it could be abuse, it could be separation, it could be death. For adults, it could be losing a job, it could be divorce, it could be anything like that. And then you have stress, which again, chronic prolonged stress then leads to anxiety and depression, because your body is now not getting any relief from whatever stress that you're experiencing, and then obviously it affects your whole body, and that's what you get. Yep.
So what we'll do next now is what? The next slide.
So if you go to the next slide, okay, how would you diagnose anxiety? And I was kind of ahead of myself just now. So we talked about the physical exam. The doctor will conduct a medical exam to rule out medical condition. This includes blood tests, hypothyroidism, hypothyroidism, and a number of medical conditions. Now, it is possible for you to still have a medical condition and also have issues with mental health. Right? So just because a doctor says you have medical condition doesn't mean that you're also not going to then be referred to a mental health professional, because you can still have that happening concurrently.
Yeah.
So when you then come to us, we do an intake interview. So like I said, family history. We look at the symptoms that are presented.
Even on this one, do they still need to go to the normal, let's say in Malaysia, right? They still need to go to the normal doctor first.
Yes. So sometimes
is the physical exam or what?
Yes, so they'll do a physical exam, and then they will also ask for you to do blood tests. So,
Okay.
they'll take age into account. They'll take a number of, obviously you can tell them everything, including the symptoms that you experience. You overthink, you worry, you have heart palpitations and all of that, because that could actually be a legit medical condition. So, you want to make sure that we're also, if there is a medical condition, you want to make sure that they're getting treatment for that as well. But they can still have anxiety on top of that. Or sometimes they have a medical condition, and the worry and fear about that medical condition then causes them to have anxiety or depression.
So for everyone's information, hi Julie. Julie is tuning in all the way from Australia. Thank you
Hi,
for joining
Julie.
in.
So,
Okay.
so you can have, like I said, a medical condition that can then lead to anxiety, or you can have a medical condition and also have anxiety at the same time, exclusive of each other.
Right. So okay. So that means whatever is, if they feel there's a symptom, they must go to the normal physician first.
Yes. Not necessarily, but a lot of people would rather have a medical diagnosis. Unfortunately, they would rather have a medical diagnosis than have a mental health diagnosis. They would rather have that.
But
it's
can
more
they
legit.
go straight? Can they go straight to a medical health diagnosis? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can also come straight to us. You can go see a psychiatrist. You can go and see a psychologist. But a good psychiatrist or a psychologist will tell you, okay, after taking down the history and taking down, every single detail that you want to share with them, and giving you questionnaires, they might still refer you to a primary care giver or a physician to rule out medical conditions. So
Okay.
I can't assume that you are having a mental illness just based on what you tell me, and then not include possible medical
physical mental health.
Because then it means that you're not getting treated for the medical condition, or if you hide medical conditions from me, or not, when sometimes it's not because they mean to hide it, they're just not prepared to tell you it first.
Yeah.
You just kind of want to deal with the anxiety symptoms. So we will still make sure that you go out there and go and make an appointment to see a medical professional to get, to make sure that you rule out medical conditions, because you could be experiencing anxiety and all that because you're on a certain medication, and there are certain medications that can mimic anxiety symptoms.
Okay. Yeah. So we go this one, treatment.
Yes. So treatment would be therapy, medication, and CAM, which is complementary and alternative.
Oh, acupuncture can help. Well, good.
So anything that helps you to relax, and obviously a lifestyle change.
Go holiday.
So exercise, yoga, meditation, that helps. But what helps most if you have moderate severe anxiety is therapy and medication. So again, medication, I'll be clear, does not cure anxiety. The medication does not cure anxiety. Okay.
What does it do then?
Help you feel better.
Reduce it.
So medication will reduce the intensity of the symptoms that you're experiencing. Sometimes they will, I'll refer them for medication first, because the anxiety is so severe that they feel so anxious during therapy that we actually don't get much done. It's hard for us to achieve, our goals, because the anxiety is actually so severe that they just cannot process whatever is done in therapy.
So what you're saying, anxiety is not curable, but anxiety disorder or any kind of anxiety
very treatable.
Is
treatable.
It's very manageable. Okay, they need to manage it, right?
Yes.
So, but it's not curable.
It's not curable.
It's just that we're able to treat
You
it,
don't
able
want
to
to
manage
cure,
it.
but if you think about it though, you don't want to cure anxiety entirely, because you need
Yes, correct.
positive anxiety. You need
Yeah,
that, because it is a way for your body to make sure that you survive, a way for your body to make sure that you avoid danger.
yeah,
Like walking out at night in a dodgy part of town, for example. You
yeah.
don't want to not have anxiety.
Yeah. So, I've been dealing with few people who are diagnosed with anxiety
Hmm.
recently, and I didn't realize sometimes that I take things for granted. Like people who are diagnosed with anxiety disorder, that
Right.
we ourselves who know, if we know that they have that, we
Yeah.
ourselves must be aware of it, and we need to be prepared, because things that we can do normally, like do things last minute, they are not able to handle it.
Right.
Correct?
Right. Because sometimes being prepared for
Yeah.
something goes a long way. Goes a long
Yeah.
way because they feel like they could avoid possibilities of things working out wrong or possibilities of things failing. So
Yeah.
planning is very helpful.
Yeah.
Children actually respond very well to routine and structure and organization,
Yeah.
because it helps them know what to expect. It helps them know what to do, and so you actually reduce a lot of that anxiety. If you have a child who grows up in a home where they don't know when the next meal is going to come, they don't know if dad's going to come home drunk tonight, they don't
Mm.
know if mom's gonna bring a stranger home, they don't know when they're gonna get the next beating, they don't know what they'll do that is going to cost them punishment. So when you raise children, you go, okay, you teach them about behavior and you tell them, you spell out your expectations, but you also teach them about consequences. What would happen if if they put a glass at the edge of the table, for example? So what you do is make sure the glass is towards the middle of the table, so you don't actually knock it down, right? So the consequence of that would be the glass breaking, the water spilling. What comes after that is you're going to have to clean that up, right?
Mm.
But that allows children, so even if, so now you can avoid accidents happening. If the accident happens, then
Mm.
the way to react to that would be, okay, well, that's happened, let's remember next time to put it towards the middle. Now we're going to clean that up. Now be careful, because there might be sharp shards of glass on the floor, and so you, as possible, again, developmentally appropriate, teach them how to deal with that. If they don't have that way
Mm.
of you know coping or responding or reacting to things, then if they spill something and your first reaction is to smack them, then they will be terrified next time, because that could very well be an accident and they didn't mean to spill it. So then they start getting, the body starts going, okay,
Anxiety.
I told you the body needs to
So
survive,
instead
right?
of like screaming at them, or screaming, we just have help them how and explain to them first, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
okay, if you spilled water, would you smack and scream at yourself? No,
No.
right? Clean it up. Let's go. Let's get a towel. Let's clean that up. And then let's do that together. And then what do we know now? Well, next time we put the glass in a different position. So you're teaching children that accidents do happen, even if you don't mean for them to happen. But there are also other ways that they can do to avoid the accident from happening, better ways.
Right.
But if an accident happens, you teach them, this is how we do it. This is how we're going to clean up. We need to clean that up. Right.
Mm.
So sometimes it's what you learn as children when you're young. So what happens is your body, like I said, is hardwired to make sure that you survive. It's hardwired for survival. It's going to collect all these experiences. It's going to remember them, because we want to avoid putting the glass on the edge of the table next time, because we don't want to get smacked, right? But what happens is that, remember, you are interpreting this and you're understanding this and seeing this from the lens of a child.
Right.
So your interpretation of that and your conclusion of that might actually be very different from when you're an adult and when things happen as an adult. But that's the only way you know how to cope.
Okay, we have Julie says, I think I have anxiety. I hate meeting people. I will overthink about nothing, even going to meet a friend for a while. I overthink that it makes me mentally exhausted before our meeting. How often do you feel like this, Julie? Maybe you just let us know how
So
often do you feel
so
like this?
if a person were to come to me and share that with me, again, ruling out all medical conditions and everything and stuff, and then eventually we realize that might be some symptoms of social anxiety, right? I would usually ask them, what happens when you have to meet people? What do you
Alamak.
think is going to happen? Right. So she
Julie
feels it
says,
all the time. That's really hard. And I'm sorry that you feel that, Julie. But I probably think about what happens when you meet people. Okay, what do you hate about meeting people? What do you feel when you're about to meet them? What do you think is going to happen when you meet them? Or what are you trying to avoid when you avoid meeting them? So we will bring all of that in the open. We will explore all of that. And usually there's always something. When we talk over a number of sessions, we then realize, okay, so you had this one experience that, okay, so Julie said, she says that she hates making small talk. Okay, can I ask why you hate making small talk?
why you hate making small
So,
talks?
okay, so one thing is, let's understand what the definition of small talk is, right? And then sometimes there, you people, it might help for you to learn conversational skills. Okay, so she doesn't like small talk because she doesn't feel like her life, feel like my life is not interesting. And then Julie, does that then make you feel like people will think that if they find out things about you, they'll think what, lesser of you because you don't have anything interesting to tell them? So you don't want people to ask you because you feel like what you tell them is not going to be enough to make them find you, for them to find you interesting. They're not going to find you interesting enough, or they might find you maybe.
Oh, what are you afraid of them finding out about you, or that you don't? That do you feel that they are afraid of how they react towards you?
So
Yes.
okay, so a quick. Yes, so she said they will think of her in a lesser way. So number one, you don't know if they're actually really thinking that. We often think it, but we don't often ask people. But when I say that, I prefer to just sit at home and watch Netflix on the weekends, will you think lesser of me? We actually don't know that. We don't actually have any necessarily any proof. Okay, unless somebody has said to her, "Oh my God, everything that you've just told about me, it's just made me think lesser of you because your life is so boring, your life is not interesting." So often, it's what's in our head. That's what we think of ourselves. That's what we think people think of us. But that's actually no proof of it. Okay, so the other thing is that those people that you're talking to might be looking at you going, gosh, I love the way she talks and I love the way she smiles, or I love the way she pronounces her words. It's so I love her accent. They may find you interesting, and then they may think that you think they're boring. Right? So when you think about it in that way, and the other thing as well, like I said, sometimes conversational skills is something that you can learn. Okay, so let's try and understand what small talk is. And one trick is, if you don't feel like you want to share so much about yourself, okay, number one, talk about them. People love it when you ask them questions and when you focus on them. Okay,
Right.
people actually like it, so focus on them instead. Now the other thing is that when they're asking you questions, usually in very different situations, you'll get people asking very similar questions. Oh, what do you do? And how long have you been here? Where do you live? And what do you do on a weekend? Let's say there are very standard questions that they ask you. So let's prepare stock phrases for that, because at some point it's actually healthy for you to go out and meet people. It's really healthy for you to be able to do that, to be among people, to get positive energy from them. It's actually super healthy. So I don't want for you to not want to do that just because you feel that people may think lesser of you. They may not, and that might actually not be true. but you may feel like your life is not interesting enough. They might find it very interesting. They might find other aspects of you interesting, right?
Yeah.
So the second thing is, like I said, have stock phrases. So when they ask you about things like, what do you do on a weekend? Then even if you stay at home and all you do is wear your pajamas till afternoon with a packet of chips and you're watching Netflix, you're binging on Netflix, okay? Tell it to them in the most interesting way. Oh, I completely relax and let go. I look forward to my weekend because I get to binge on Netflix. I binge on series where I don't have to do any thinking and stuff. And then I'm recharged by the end of the weekend, ready to start the week. They do find you funny and interesting. Now, if you disappoint them, okay, Julie, if you disappoint them, okay, that's their emotion to process, not yours. Okay, too bad. If you disappoint them, then that's just too bad. You're not there to please people. You're there to just be yourself. If they feel disappointed, that's something they need to deal with on their own. It's their emotion to process, not yours.
Julie, you are an amazing woman. Okay, you are always having interesting life. I mean, for you to leave Malaysia and to have the life that you want in Australia is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not easy for you to just leave Malaysia. Okay, so.
Okay. So, and
Okay,
you
so
don't know,
what's the next?
you don't actually
Yeah.
know what people might find interesting. You have no idea. Right? If you don't go out there, if you don't talk, if you don't tell things about yourself, and some people, they may go, oh, okay. Well, then again, it's their process. It's their emotion to process. It's not yours. They don't find it. I mean, you probably won't find everybody interesting either. Some people are more interesting than others.
Right.
Right?
Okay,
So
Dr.
you go
Nina,
out there and
you
slay
have
it.
to go
Okay.
to how to calm your anxiety. Here
Yes.
you
So
go.
how do we calm your anxiety? So a number of things we can do. So you can focus on your breathing. You can replace fearful thoughts. You can stay present. You can phone a loved one, engage in a calm activity, yoga, meditation, listening to music. You could write things out. And then again, watching what you eat, watching what you put in your body. So one of the things that actually is helpful is the what do you call that? As a grounding techniques. Okay, so if you go to the next page, grounding techniques is something that everybody can do. You don't always need to go see a psychologist to learn how to do this. And grounding techniques are divided into physical, mental, and soothing. Okay, so physical is where you use your five senses or tangible objects, things you can touch to help you move through distress. So you might have a worry bead. You might savor a food or drink, maybe something really sour, like lemon or like some sour candy. Put your hands. Sometimes when people are feeling anxious, they go to the loo and they splash their face with cold water. So any kind of things that causes sort of physical sensation, physical changes. So you could pick items or touch items near you, hold a piece of ice. You could go and savor a scent that you like, a smell that you like, take a short walk. So walking out that energy, move your body, listen to your surroundings, you feel your body. And then there's also one thing that is called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. The 5-4-3-2-1 method is working backward from 5. When you experience this, use your senses to list things you notice around you. So you might list 5 things you hear, 4 things you see, 3 things you can touch from where you're sitting, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Okay, so making an effort to be present and then paying attention to all of those sensations around you and stuff. So what it does is you are now distracting your brain from thinking about the worry into focusing on all those things around you. Right?
I could use this for my son if he gets angry also.
Yes, but before that, You can try those, but before that, always get to the root of what's causing him anxiety. So if you're talking about your son, if you see, I don't know, like if you see him losing his temper and he gets angry, or he gets really easily he's very sensitive, he's easily annoyed, or he, if you see those things, the idea is to get to the root of the problem first. And then he's obviously learned how to deal with things in a certain way, but that way is unhelpful. So then introduce the techniques to him. So imagery, relaxation exercise. If you go online, you get ones that are great. There's a script for children, and you get them to imagine that they're squeezing a lemon with their right hand, squeeze it as much as they can, or, to kind of relax their facial muscles. You get them to imagine there's a bee right on top or in the middle of their nose, and without using their hands, they have to get the bee to fly away. So they're making funny, squilly, motions with their faces. They tense their abdominal muscles, and then they release it by imagining an elephant about to step on it, and then the elephant's gone now, so they relax it. So they're great scripts. They're actually out there for children to learn, to teach them how to relax. So a lot of techniques. I'm happy to share that with you at another time, Liz, but do that with him, but get to the root of the problem first, because he needs to be heard, and then he needs to be feeling like he has control of the situation to some extent. And be able to tell what he can control and what he can't control. And so then working with that. Okay, so you have mental techniques. These grounding exercises, they use mental distractions to help redirect your thoughts away from distressing feelings and back to the present. So you may play a memory game. You may think in categories, like musical instruments or ice cream flavors or mammals or, baseball teams or flowers, for example. And then for some people, they find that math is helpful. Math actually de-stresses them. Math actually stresses me out. But for a lot of people, math and numbers is actually helpful. So you may want to do that. So they may focus on, running through a timetable in your head, counting backwards from 100, for example. Choosing a number and thinking of 5 ways you could make the number, so add them up in different ways. Recite something, songs and all of that. Make yourself laugh, use an anchoring. Okay, this is another one. Use an anchoring phrase. This might be I'm, and then you state your full name. I'm, however years old you are, state where you're living, state what the day is, state what the date is, state what the time is, state where you're sitting at that time, and acknowledge things around you. There's 3 people sitting across to me, or there's a plant next to my desk, or I'm sitting at my desk right now and I'm looking at my computer and so on. So basically getting you to come back, because with anxiety, your thoughts are far away.
So be present, what you're saying.
So much
There's
into
a technique for you to be present on that point at that time right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Rather than focusing on the future, right? I got it.
Yes. So another thing is, you've noticed this when you talk to a friend who's anxious about something, and she's moving a lot, and she goes, oh my God, and she sounds really panicky and all of that. One of the things you can do is to actually tell her to stop moving her eyeballs. So this could be, for example, because when people are thinking, their eyes are darting away left, right, they're thinking, and it's the thought process in their head. What you want to do is you want to tell them to anchor their eyeballs as well. So they keep it still. And you could say something like, I need you to just look at me. Don't look at anything else. Just look at me.
Okay. Got it.
Look at me. The other thing that we instinctively do as moms is when our children are upset and they get a bit anxious about something, is we instinctively rub their back.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. One thing that helps is what you do is you first rub their back really, really quickly, because that mimics the anxiety or stress that they're feeling at that time. And then eventually you slow down the rubbing. So you don't rub as quickly and stuff. And what happens is their heartbeat will start to follow the speed of your back rub. Because we instinctively do that. When we realize that a friend is concerned about something or worried about something, we will either, we will do this, we'll grip them and all that instinctively. So we actually unknowingly have done things to help people. You just need to, you just need to be aware of that. Okay, so again, with mental techniques, you describe a common task. You visualize a daily task that you enjoy or don't mind doing, or you can imagine yourself leaving the painful feelings behind, for example.
Right.
Okay.
Mm.
You can also describe what's around you. Again, that's mental. Now,
Right.
soothing techniques are kind of very nice. It always sounds nice. So basically, what you do is things that are very comforting. So you might list favorite things. You might sit with your pet. People have found that pets actually help a lot when you're experiencing, cats or dogs or whatever pet works for
Yeah.
you. You focus on something else, and obviously, you obviously enjoy your time with the pet. You love them, so you make sure that you are tending to them in a nice way. So without realizing it, you're already behaving differently.
Yeah.
Okay. And then again, visualize your favorite place. You plan an activity, touch something comforting. For some children, when a lot of children, when they're little, they would have like this blanket or something that is comforting. The smell is comforting to them. The texture of the blanket is comforting to them. And they
Right.
take that. Younger children, it's a
Yeah.
pacifier, action and all of that.
I
So
have
things,
that. I have
yeah,
that.
there are actually things around you that
Yeah.
you can actually do to help. So there are a lot of there out there on the internet, and you can try and do that. Now, if that gets to a point where that doesn't help, or you feel like I'm not doing it right, am I doing it right? If you're even questioning that, and then you need more guidance and so on and so forth, then yes, by all means, go seek professional help.
All
But
right.
okay,
So
anxiety a
then the
little
last
bit
one.
not normal to live with, severe anxiety. So this is Karen Salmonson. She is actually an author of self-help books. You can look her up. She says that anxiety happens when you think you have to figure out everything all at once, which is kind of true because it feels overwhelming. Right. And it feels like, you're on a different time than everybody else. Your time is moving really fast, really quickly, and it's not waiting for you. So what do? We breathe and take deep breaths and count them backwards, or count the breaths, hold it in for a number. If you want to sleep, 7 or 8 counts is helpful. So you take in your breath up to 7 counts, and then you
Mm.
hold it for 4, and then you release for 8. So do that if you have trouble sleeping. It relaxes your body. And she's saying, you're strong, you got this, take it day by day.
Got it.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Wow.
That's it.
Very
That's anxiety
impactful.
for you.
Very concise. Everything that ini pergi cikgu, Professor Dr. Nina. So
You know,
now
you're gonna put this. You're gonna put this like out there for everybody to see, right? I need to make sure it's very clear for everyone. But
yeah.
read up on it,
Thank you.
understand
There's a
it.
lot of effort for you. We have to thank and say thank you, Dr. Nina, for making
Thank
all the
you.
slides.
Yes, I
It's,
also
it's,
stress
it's
out
a lot of work that she has done.
the slides and all that. I do enjoy it, but again, still, it's still stressful at times, but it's fine. It's fine. I've got this. I've got this.
Wow, you did it.
Paula.
Awesome job. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
Julie, if you have any more, I used to see lie. I don't know. Yeah, she says here, I used to resent my parents for making work. I was a PR manager for 13 years. Thing. I hated going to work because I have to meet new people every day.
Okay. Okay. So that may not have been your thing, but maybe your parents see a different side of you, and they think that you're capable and all that, but you don't necessarily feel that yourself. The other thing I forgot to mention is that sometimes some individuals can already have an anxious predisposition. So an anxious personality. So I know you probably identify with some people out there who you feel like, she's just an anxious person, or the child has always been an anxious child, for example. Sometimes that actually leads to or develops into anxiety. So if you notice a child with an anxious predisposition, start early with them by introducing techniques, by acknowledging what they're feeling, but also telling them teaching them not to think of the worst thing or the worst scenario, and then tell them, okay, well, whatever you're thinking is going to happen, has that ever happened? And often they go, no, it hasn't happened. Okay, so if it hasn't happened, then it's very unlikely that it will happen, right? So teach them to redirect their thoughts, think about different things. But again, there's a lot of things that you can do with children, especially to help. But yeah, that's the one thing I think you need to be aware of as well. Some people simply have an anxious predisposition.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, that's it for the evening. We have one full pack, 1 hour and 40 minutes of Dr. Nina. So we'll see you
last one.
again.
Before I forget, remember last time when I talked about depression and I talked about how Eeyore could be experiencing depression, Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, the donkey from Winnie the Pooh. Right. Okay, so if you're talking about anxiety, then it's Piglet. The pig in Winnie the Pooh.
Really?
Because he's always panicking, he's always, in an anxious state. So yeah, so it's Piglet this time.
So everyone watch Winnie the Pooh.
Back at that, and then you'll notice it. You'll notice it more. I think now that you have some awareness of it now, it's interesting to look at it and go, okay, yeah, Piglet is definitely anxious, and you're for sure depressed. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. I see you guys again next week on Saturday at 4 p.m. Yeah, I'm a big. Julie is a piglet. You're a cute, gorgeous piglet lah. Okay lah tu. So see you guys again next Saturday at 4 p.m. at Mamaliez Wants to Learn. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.